All right, faith builders or faith explorers, actually. I tried this earlier today, and for some reason, it sounded horrible at the church. So I'm gonna do it live streaming. I don't know if you guys can join in right now, but nevertheless, I'll send it to the class. I just wanted to. Today's class was so good that what I wanted to do was share it with you guys for those that weren't able to attend. So we are talking about. We're still taking the journey when it comes down to faith, and for the next few weeks, we're going to talk about David. We're going to journey and discover and find out what is this thing called faith and how David applied it to his life. So, uh, this week, we're looking at David, a faith that meets adversity head on. So lesson one is going to be faith that moves with confidence in God. So it's not just faith that moves in confidence, but it's faith that moves in confidence with God. So here it is. This is the opening setting, right? Uh, we're stepping into the valley of Elah. Uh, not just a place on a map, but a place in the soul. Let me see. I'm working over here and I'm going to try to do this so it will be as less distracting as I possibly can make it. So let's see. Here we go. Oh, that light is over there. It's going to bother me. So let's put it here. Okay, here we go. I'm learning. I'm learning, guys. Bear with me. So here it is. We're stepping into the Valley of Elah, not just a place on a map, but a place in the soul, because every believer eventually finds themselves in a valley where something stands in front of them that either looks too big, too loud, too scary, too heavy, too experienced, and too intimidating. And the question is not, will adversity come? But the question is, what kind of faith will you bring with you when it does come? Right. And so our theme for the next few weeks is David, a faith that meets adversity head on. And today's lesson is simple but dangerous. Faith moves in confidence, excuse me, faith moves with confidence in God, not confidence in yourself, not confidence in your skills, not in your experience, but confidence in God. So here's the historical context of what really is going on. Israel, you got the people of Israel and the Philistines, and they're not just two armies, right? We're gonna look at it like there are two world views. Israel represents the covenant with God, and the Philistines represent culture, intimidation, and domination. So let's read the word of God, right? Let's get into First Samuel chapter 17, verses 3 through 8. And why did I lose it? Here it is. Okay. And it says, so the Philistines and Israelites faced each other on opposite hills with the valley between them. Then Goliath, a Philistine champion from Gath, came out of the Philistines' ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was over 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet, and his bronze coat of mail weighed 125 pounds. He also wore bronze leg armor, and he carried a bronze javelin on his shoulder. The shaft of his spear was as heavy and thick as a weaver's beam, tipped with an iron spearhead that weighed 15 pounds. His armor bearer walked ahead of him carrying a shield. So he had a lot, needless to say, and so much weight that even he couldn't carry his own shield. I guess that's the picture that I'm having. And Goliath stood and shouted and taunted across to the Israelites. Why are you all coming out to fight? He called. I am a Philistine champion, but you are only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. So we see that the enemy, that Goliath, he goes and here it is. The Philistine, they stayed, they were one mountain, and Israel stood at another mountain with a valley between them. The valley was called Elah, which in Hebrew is connected to a strong rooted tree. Don't even try to get me to pronounce it in the Hebrew because I'm going to jack it up, but I'll try anyway. It's called the terebinth tree. Here is what that means spiritually. This isn't just a battlefield where they were at, it was a decision valley, a place where roots are tested, a place where you find out what your faith is actually anchored to. And notice that they're not fighting yet, they're just standing, right? There's two armies, one hill, one valley, and zero movement. This is called a stalemate. Not because no one has powers, but because fear has frozen the purpose. I want you to understand that. I want you guys to visualize what's going on. Again, you got the people of God in one side of the hill, in one hill, and the Philistines at another hill. And in the middle, the valley is where now the giant starts taunting them. And the giant starts calling out to them. See, and I want you to know that adversity doesn't always attack. Sometimes it just stands there until your courage collapses. And so you see that the people of Israel were scared. Goliath did not go and attack them. He went to the middle. He was in the valley and he's taunting them. He's taunting them and he's calling them out. He says, listen, I'm the champion. You know, why don't you guys, is there not even one amongst you that could come and meet me? And so we're gonna go into the psychological warfare because the battlefield is positioned for the psychological warfare. Verse 2 introduces Goliath as a champion. In Hebrew, the word is Ish Ha Benahim, which literally means the man of the space between. And that's wild. Think about it. Goliath is not just a giant, he's a separator. He stands between Israel and their promises, between courage and their calling, between faith and forward movement. His assignment is not just to kill soldiers, his assignment is to occupy the middle, to block the progress, to dominate the space between where you are and where God is taking you. So I want us to understand again, because sometimes we look at the story of David and we're just looking at it as is it was just uh, uh, a Sunday school teaching, but I want us to look at symbolically what's going on, right? The name Goliath, the separator, the one that stands between. And so you have the people of God on one side, you have adversity on the other side, and you have a giant, a separator right in the middle, stopping the people of God from getting to the promises or getting to fulfill the purposes that God has for them. Isn't that just how the enemy comes to us, right? The enemy comes, and there are times that the enemy will come and he'll taunt us, and he's the separator. The enemy will be the separator, that which stands between the promises of God and you. Okay, so I just want us to understand that some of us are not under attack; you are just under delay. Let that sit for a minute, right? Here it is. Goliath hasn't come to the Israelite camp yet, and he hasn't laid his hands on anybody physically. He at this point he's just speaking. He's just taunting. He's causing, excuse me, he's causing the people of God to be paralyzed by fear, and no one is moving. No one is moving. No one dares step up, because they look at Goliath. They see how he looks, how intimidating he is. And your Goliath is not destroying you, but he's standing there every day reminding you how big your problems look, right? Your Goliath may be looking at you. The thing that's separating you from the promises of God may be something as simple as your bills. right? For some reason or another, you are a bad steward, or situations in life happen, and now you are a slave to the lender, and where you're working one, instead of working one job, you got two or three or four jobs, and you don't have time to spend with your family. You don't have time to go to church. You don't have time to just be productive, point blank, because all you're doing is just working to pay your bills. There's a Goliath that is called Bill that may be stopping you from fulfilling the promises and the purposes of God in your life. There may be a diagnosis, some sickness, right? Maybe you were diagnosed with cancer, or fibromyalgia, or MS, or depression, whatever it may be. There may be family tension. It could be stuff that's going on in your family. For those that are parents that know that you have a teenager, and they go through puberty, they go through some changes in their life, and so there may be tension there. There may be tension between husbands and wives when it comes down to budgets and goals and plans, right? There could be career uncertainties. These are just to name a few of some of the Goliaths, some of the separators, some of the things that sometimes stand between you and the promises of God. Nothing changes. You're still in the same valley. You're still hearing the same voice. It's still the same intimidation. Remember, it was going on for 40 days. Goliath would come up and he would just taunt the people of God. It was the same valley. Nothing changed. It was the same voice. It was the same intimidation. It was the same 9-foot giant. Uh, but not because the enemy is strong, but because he's trying to wear you down. So it's still the same thing. And Goliath it wasn't that he wasn't strong and that he didn't come and attack the Israelites. It's not like he came, it's not like he couldn't go and just, he's a champion. And the enemy sometimes doesn't invade your territory. Sometimes he just stands there to intimidate you, right? Sometimes he's just there to wear you down. Sometimes, the problems of life can wear us down. Situations around us can wear us down. And these are the things that are stopping and separating us from getting to the purpose or the promises of God, right? So when we look at Goliath, we see how the scriptures describe his height. We see how the scriptures describe the armor that he's wearing. His armor is heavy. So about 125 pounds. You know, uh, that's like carrying a person, you know? And so what I want you to guys to look at and picture this, when you think of Goliath, let's look at his description. He has a bronze helmet. He has a bronze armor, 125 pounds, bronze shin guards, bronze javelin, an iron spearhead. The man is wrapped in metal. And here's the revelation. In scriptures, bronze represents judgment and human strength. Goliath is literally covered head to toe in self-protection. He trusts armor more than God. Some people trust their armors more than what they trust God. They trust in their weapons more than the wisdom, right? Here he is. He's trusting more in his weapon than in his wisdom. He's depending more of his size than the sovereignty of God. And so I want us to take a look at Goliath and say to ourselves, why is it that he's like that, right? Why is it that Goliath, is dressed up with all of this heaviness, right? Like this armor, and he's carries so much weight. And sometimes the picture for us is wherever or whatever you overprotect reveals what you don't trust God with. Let that sit for a minute. Whatever you overprotect usually reveals what you don't trust God with. Sometimes, we may become overprotective of our children because we don't trust God. So I have to be the God in their life. Sometimes I don't trust, I'm overprotective of my spouse because I don't trust God with them. So I try to be the God in their life. Sometimes I don't trust God with my finances, and so I don't tithe, I don't give offerings, or even worse than that, hear me, or just as bad as that, because I don't trust that God will meet all of my needs. Here I am, I go and I work 5 6 jobs. I'm overworking myself because I don't trust that God will meet all of my needs. And so now I go and I start putting some armors, and sometimes these are some of the armors that we could put on ourselves: money, titles, right? I'm overprotective with a title. I'm Doctor So and So the fifth, and I'm Eric Padilla, RN, BSN, MSP, the OPP. Why, me, and all of that stuff. You add the vowels to it. That's what people sometimes do. Your education. You know, control. You become a control freak. You have emotional wars. But can I tell you something? That armor is heavy, and heavy armor slows movement. And that is why Goliath never advanced. Think about it. I look at it like that. I say, maybe Goliath never advanced because what he had was too heavy. So all he could do was just shout, but he can't chase. Uh, so I want us to understand that when it comes down to our spiritual walk, you know, fear makes noise. The enemy, who's already a defeated foe, he's going to make all the noise he can. So all he's going to do is accuse you. All he's going to do is, charge you. He's going to try to intimidate you. He's going to try to get you to stay frozen wherever you are. But faith makes move. And we're gonna pause right here, because this is all that the class, this is as far as I got in the class. But there were some questions that I wanted to ask you guys, and maybe I don't know if there's a comment section in the YouTube. I'm still new to this, so I want you guys to answer these questions, or shoot me a text message in the group. So here's the questions: what valleys are you currently standing in where progress feels stalled, where stagnated? What valleys are you currently standing in? Right? Um, and one of the things that, as we were looking at the scriptures, I want you guys to look at First Samuel chapter 17, verses 3 to 8, because that's where we're at right now. And tell me what stood out to you about Goliath's position, where he was at. What stood out to you about how Goliath positioned himself between Israel and their promise? What really stood out to you? Right? Where was he? And where do you see intimidation trying to occupy the middle in your life? Where do you see intimidation trying to occupy the middle in your life? Where do you see that? Be honest with yourself and say, sometimes um I see I see intimidation when it comes down to, I'm not right now, hello, yours truly. I'm not eloquent in my way of speaking. I don't speak, like I hey, listen, this is who Eric is. I didn't go to school to learn how to articulate and use all uh these fancy words. So sometimes that could be intimidating, right? That could be intimidating, like to be in a room of people that are scholars and that people that know how to articulate well, and so you stay quiet because you know what? I don't dare speak. That's Professor so and so, or that's Pastor so and so, or that's Reverend so and so, and that's they got title, they got position, and me, I sometimes that could rise up, and I don't dare really speak because intimidation is trying to occupy that area between me and what God has purposed me for. And so, what are some modern forms of armor people rely instead of God? What are some of the armors that people tend to put on, right? Instead of depending on God. We already touched up on some, right? It could be money, it could be your education, it could be, anything that you start carrying around. But all of this stuff that you're putting on is stopping you really from moving forward. And so, two more questions, and then I will cap it right here. Is how does fear attempt to redefine identity today? Because if you notice,
that Goliath is in his speech, he says, I am the Philistine champion. You are just the servants of Saul. He had the people of God thinking that they were less than what God had made them. Not, you are the people of the Most High God. You are the chosen people of the Most High God. He said, you are just the servants of a man. That's all you guys are. Me, I'm a champion. So, how does fear attempt to redefine identity today? Oh, you're just a high school dropout, right? Or you're just a mailman, or you're just a nurse, or you're just this, you're just that. What is it that the enemy sometimes tries to tell you? What noise, what fear is trying to rise up and tells you you're just what? And what does it look like practically to stabilize your inner world before fighting outward battles? Tell me, what does it look like practically to stabilize your inner world before fighting outward battles? Because the battles are going to come. And so we see that the people of Israel, the people of God, they were frozen. Nobody made a move. And David hasn't entered the scene yet. This is just, Goliath. This is Goliath's moment right now. The people of God, the Philistines, and Goliath in the middle. And so I want to make emphasis that adversity often creates stalemates, right? And so I want you guys to understand that. So what it is that sometimes when adversity comes your way, it's to get you to just stop, to freeze you. It's not always not necessary that the enemy is always going to come to hit you, to attack you, right? You're not always going to get hit with sickness. You're not always going to get hit physically. You're not always going to lose your house. You're not always going to, not always something physical is going to happen. Sometimes it could just be the news of something. You're about to get your lights cut off, right? You're about to be evicted, right? This is a diagnosis, right? You're about to get fired. Your hospital's about to close. These are things that this is something that is a voice, is a noise that fear is making to get you to freeze. And so I want us to start now saying to ourselves, you know what? I want us to identify areas where fear has delayed movement, because we're talking about advancement. We're talking about heading towards adversity with faith, having confidence in God. So I want you guys to start thinking and listing here. Uh, where is it that fear has delayed movement on your behalf? Where is it? And then you bring it to the Lord. And some of the scriptures that I shared with the class today was Psalms 139, verse 23 and 24, where you tell the Lord, God, search me, test my heart, know me, examine me, right? But don't just leave me here, guide me in the way I need to go, right? And so tell God, God, where is it that fear is delaying me? Because we're going to learn that David stepped into the picture, but he was there on another assignment. And that's the beautiful thing, that David wasn't ready to meet up with Goliath. He didn't know about this. He went there as to be obedient to his father to go feed his brothers. So David hasn't stepped in yet, but it's going to speak volume to us in the days to come. And I hope that my microphone works at the next Sunday school class. So like that, we could, I don't have to redo this, because I like to really engage with the class. Although I'm already taking 24 minutes of talking. But I just want you guys, when you get a chance, answer these questions. Hit me up at the group text message. Hit me up on YouTube and let me know, what it is that some of the answers. I'll be interested to see what exactly is that you guys are. What's your thought? I love you guys. I thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that this recording and the audio is a lot better than it was today in class. Keep praying for me, y'all. I'm learning this new things. Okay. God bless you. God keep you. I love you. See you guys next week.